Today, we will hear statements by the Honourable members for the District of Terranova, Placentia West Bellevue, Placentia St. Mary's, Conception Bay South, and Grand Falls Windsor Buckens. The Honourable member for Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, farming on the Eastport Peninsula has a long history. In the 1930s, the Eastport Peninsula Agricultural Exhibition began. After a short break, it was established again in the 90s. They recently celebrated their 32nd anniversary. Within the COVID guidelines and creative planning, a 12-committee group was able to host a successful event, all because of community effort and involvement. On the 10th of October, the event was started with one of the largest parades they had ever seen. Each year, a different tree is planted at the cenotaph. This year's tree, a lurch, was planted in recognition of first responders, frontline workers, and essential workers. The origin of Eastport and Sandringham can be traced back to their agricultural roots and their farmers. Unfortunately, the physical display, which they normally do, of produce and home gardens could not take place this year. But thanks to Tanya Lane, there was a virtual presentation of all the local produce. An outdoor farmers market with 23 vendors was hosted by the Recreation Committee, and the Kids Soapbox Derby was a huge success with over 20 participants, and it was the highlight of the day. The effort to continue some of the annual events was evident in the community spirit. Please join me in congratulating the Eastport Peninsula Agricultural Committee and local community involvement.
The Honourable member for Placentia West Bellevue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I speak of an event I had the pleasure of taking part, the Burin Peninsula Healthcare Foundation 2020 Annual Radiothon. The organization was eager to host this year's event as it was held a little different than normal with the COVID guidelines, virtual presentations and scheduled in-person presentations, and I personally attended via telephone. The Burin Peninsula Healthcare Foundation successfully raised $135,000 while in the midst of an ongoing pandemic, making this radiothon a huge accomplishment. If I may, Mr. Speaker, the words of Vanessa Jackman, the Executive Director of the Burin Peninsula Healthcare Foundation, I am so humbled and honored to have witnessed the outpouring of generosity from both our residents on the Burin Peninsula and all our volunteers who made this event happen, and I echo those sentiments. These donations will assist our local healthcare initiatives on the Burin Peninsula, improving the health services we require. I ask all honourable members to join me in congratulating all the volunteers, supporters with donations, and especially the Foundation's board members for their efforts this year. You are the many reasons for this awesome achievement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable member for Placentia St. Mary's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on September the 20th, 1965, a young teacher by the name of Miss Uriel Whalen was a boarder in the Gaskers St. Mary's Bay at the Critch residence. Angus Kiley took every opportunity that year to visit his aunt's house. On October 17, 1970, Uriel and Angus were married. They had 5 children, 2 daughters and 3 sons, and today have 9 grandchildren, all boys. Angus retired from working as a heavy equipment mechanic in 2002, and Uriel retired from her teaching career in 2003. Angus and Uriel are very involved with the Seniors Association, attending card games, dances, and fundraisers. They both attend church and have a strong faith. On Saturday past, I visited Mr. and Mrs. Kiley at their home in the Gaskers. Today, as the member of the House of Assembly for the District of Placentia St. Mary's, I would like to congratulate Mr. and Mrs. Kiley on the celebration of their 50th wedding anniversary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable member for Conception Bay South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last Saturday evening, I, along with my colleague, MHA from Windsor Lake, I had the pleasure of attending Justin Fancy's live stream album release show at the Glendenning Golf Course in St. John's. This is a great evening highlighting lots of wonderful talent in our province. The show was hosted actually by award-winning Canadian actor, comedian Sean Majumber, Dustin Parsons from Saltwater Noise, along with special guest Chris Ryan. The local boy from Conception Bay South is a country music artist preparing to hit the national stage with the release of his debut album, Sure Beats a Good Time. Justin's a local singer-songwriter who once was a contestant on Canadian Idol. He keeps his songwriting real and enjoys writing about his own experiences with songs that come from the heart. On October 20th, Centre City Media covered a documentary of Newfoundland's own Justin Fancy. It's been a long time coming. This documentary featured his candid story and covers the release of his debut album, Sure Beats a Good Time. I encourage everyone to visit Justin Fancy's Facebook page or visit his website, justinfancymusic.ca, to follow his successful journey. Speaker, I ask all Island members to join me in congratulating and wishing Justin Fancy continued success in his music career. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Grand Falls, Windsor-Buckins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last Thursday, Nathan Sullivan and his dad, Ron, were in the woods cutting some birch for the winter. As Nathan started in with his chainsaw, it suddenly kicked back and sliced into his dad's leg. The pain was intense and the bleeding was profuse, but Nathan's 10 years of training with the Grand Falls Windsor Fire Department instinctively kicked in. He encouraged his dad to remain calm and slow his breathing. With no cell service, he managed to get his dad on a quad and drove toward the highway until he had cell service. He then called his dispatch and gave the location where they would meet them on the highway. For the rest of the drive in the quad, Nathan got his dad to sing a song to let him know that he's still with him. When Ron sang Jingle Bells, Nathan, who hates Christmas songs too early, jokingly told him, "If you keep that up, Skipper, you're not going to make it." Ron is being discharged today with a new pair of chainsaw pants bought on Friday. He wants me to remind everybody to stay safe. It is paramount when cutting wood in the woods. We wish him all the best, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.